Hello, everyone. I think I'm live now. Can everybody see me? Somebody's writing to me on my phone. Let me answer her. Can everybody see me? I think you guys are able to write comments, right? Hi, everybody. My name is Lana. Shalom. How's everyone doing? I'm going to turn off my phone. Oh, people are confused. This is Facebook Live. Okay. Okay. So, my name is Lana Shalom, and I'm here today to tell you about Neurographica. Some of you may know about what Neurographica is, and some of you may not know yet. And you're here to figure it out, to find out more about it. And I'm very, very happy to introduce it to you. I think it's an amazing tool, an amazing method to be used when you work, whether within your own personal goals you want to reach, or work with the stress that you have, or it could be anything you can use within a group setting or within a professional setting of yours. Okay, so people can't find it. I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, I hope people can see me. Okay, excellent, great. I think it's Masha that sees me. Hi, Masha. So let's discuss what Neurographica is, because it's absolutely fascinating. It's absolutely interesting, and it has been in existence for the last 6 years. And I want to tell you, it has been taking over Europe for the last, for the last 6 years, as I've been saying, and it has come to United States finally for the last 2 to 3 years. Me and my colleagues, we have instructors, we have an array of instructors that speak English and present Neurographica to you. And it's absolutely fascinating. It's interesting. And I'm going to invite you today to try it with me, okay? Let's see. I am going to try to see, because Facebook Live now, I know my way around Zoom, and Facebook Live is a little more complicated. I'm trying to see if I can, yes, it's not letting me share the, not letting me share the screen. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show it to you on my iPad. I want to tell you a little more about what Neurographica is, so you understand why it's the way it is and why it's so fascinating, why it's so interesting. So instead of sharing the screen, I'm actually going to share the screen with you. Let's see if it's going to work. I'm going to do it quickly. You know what? I actually have, yeah, I don't know if it works. Yeah, it doesn't work. I have a video on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is the same name as my profile, which is Lana Shalom, and you're welcome to go see it. And actually, what I'm thinking I'm going to do, I'm going to make it as a live stream. I'm going to put it later today as a live stream that I will be talking, and you can come back to my profile and you will see it as a video. Okay, please do that, because I want you to understand more about what Neurographica is and how it works. What I'm going to discuss with you is Neurographica is a method. Hi, Marat. So Neurographica is a method. It's an art method, and more talking about its art coaching method that describes and helps a person, I actually talked about it before, that helps a person to deal with a personal, individual, as well as a group setting, and work with their stress or reach their goal. It's a coaching tool. It's a coaching method. Okay, some people call it an art therapy method. It's a little different than art therapy, because art therapy implies the word therapy. This is more of a coaching technique, and that's what it is. What I'm going to show you today, I'm going to actually show you what we do in Neurographica that makes it so interesting and unusual. I will tell you a little more about Neurographica. Let me switch the camera and you can listen while I draw. Those of you who draw Neurographica are familiar with this kind of video. Let's see. I think you guys are able to see, right? There you go. Voila. You can see my paper and you can see my pen. Okay. So what Neurographica is a way, it has two words. So the word Neurographica consists of two words. You can't see it. I'll show it. Turn it around. Neurographica. Okay. The first word is neuro. Neurographica. The word neuro has actually to do with the way the neurons work, the way the neural pathways look, and the way the neural pathways work. And that's the interesting part about Neurographica, that you, by drawing Neurographica, you start activating your neurons, and that's where the name came. Neurographica was invented by a Russian scientist. He has a PhD, and he's an artist and he's an architect. His name is Pavel Piskaryov. What else is it? Okay. And he invented this 6 years ago while he was actually flying from Moscow to Israel. And while being on the plane, he says he came up with an idea of the word Neurographica, and he was trying to figure out how does it connect with everything that he knows, because he knows he's an expert in many different spiritual integrative practices, and he was like figuring out what does it have to do, and he finally connected that neuro has to do with neurons, and graphics has to do with neurons is a psychology part of what he knows, and graphica has to do with the architectural part of what he is still. It's a graphical, and that's exactly what Neurographic is. What we do in Neurographic is we draw, and what I'm going to do with you today is actually draw the neurographic line. It's a special kind of line. It's not a regular straight line. We actually know, those of you who draw Neurographic with me, you guys know that we never draw a straight line in Neurographica. We don't draw a patterned line like this and not like this, right? No patterns either. Neurographica is a line that looks like a neural line, a neural pathway line. You see how I'm drawing? I am not controlling the way my hand goes. This line was just drawn by my hand on its own. And that's how it works with Neurographica. We are working, and that's what we will discuss today specifically, actually, the neural line. Neural line is also called a Piskarov's line because Pavel Piskarov has actually patented the name of this line as his own line because he created the line. There was never a line like this existed. It may look like a wavy line to you, but it's not exactly a wavy line. It's a way that your hand will lead you in working how this line works, right? If you go slowly, then the way the line will look is like this. Go slowly. I'm not controlling. It can go up. It can go down. The neural line is a live line, and that's what it's interesting. It's a line of life, right? It's the way the line goes that kind of it's like an allegory of how life works within a human being, right? We don't know whether it's going to go up or down, if it's going to go to the left or to the right, but it goes and it has its own kind of life. What our hand does is just express the line outside. Hi, Noran, how are you? And that's what Neuroline is about. It's very unusual. Like I said before, I can't share the screen here on FB Live, but I will share my presentation right after my video on Facebook Live. You can go to my profile and look at it. It actually already exists on my YouTube channel. But the interesting part of Neuroline is it's very unusual. But once you start drawing, if you practice now, take your markers and start doing it, you will start noticing that within you, something interesting kind of wakes up. You can even take a finger and go on top of it. Because this line is how everything is like an energy line, how energy works within a person, how energy works within, physiologically within a person, how neural pathways are formed. And the line can go in any direction. It can start from the bottom to the up. Look at this, going up. It can start on top and going down. But I am not controlling. Look, I think it's going down. Let's see where my hand will take me. So that's interesting because there are different ways the line can go. And those of you who took the basics course and then went on to study further on can understand what I'm talking about, because in the beginning, we talk a lot about the line just going its own way, the line being like an allegory of the way the journey in life goes, right? The lifeline goes, right? I'm just allowing my hand to be kind of an expression, the way to express physiologically the way the line goes within my mind or even within my heart, right? Within one's soul. But it's interesting to know that the way the line goes is, at the beginning, we learned that the line should go the way your hand takes it. And then later on, and that's an interesting part, those who start drawing more and more start realizing something else. And later on, we start talking about the line, not just the line taking you, but you allow yourself, allow your line to kind of not tell you where to go, but rather work against something that's called a resistance, right? We all know about a psychological term called a resistance. That means if something interesting or something good is about to happen to a person. Hi, Alice. It's so nice to see you. I'm so glad to see you here. How are you? When a line goes on its own, it follows a certain path that's within you. And that's how it's supposed to be, right? But as we learn, and everybody who has done any type of integrative techniques or any type of coaching, has used any type of coaching tools, or has done anything, any spiritual integrative techniques, like using even like Ho'oponopono, right? I'm very big on using Ho'oponopono within my own practice, the practice of saying certain phrases. Thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. And we all know that with time, a certain tool gets so integrated into who we are that it's just also start creating something called a resistance within a person's psyche, a resistance within a person's mind to changes, the resistance to changes. A person's ego, we're going to call it as it is, that's a part of the mind that's called ego. And that ego does not want the person to change much. There are a lot of reasons for that. It could be, well, first and foremost, the ego does have the best interest of a human being in mind, because what the ego is trying to do is trying to help a person to, not to kind of help a person to not just survive, but also to kind of protect from any dangers of changing, because change, we are thinking that change is good, right? But our psyche, our ego doesn't always think that change is good, right? Because change can be anything. Ego is here to remember whatever negative happens. We all know that. Whatever positive happens is great, but our memory tends to memorize only the negative experience. So as a result, the negative experience is what ego uses to let the mind know that, are you sure you want the change? It could be something negative, it could be something bad. So the mind usually follows the ego because ego is extremely strong and very powerful and ego is a very good, kind of convincing part of the mind. So resistance is the way the ego convinces the human mind and even the human emotions, maybe even body. Body is the hardest to convince, but the mind is the easiest to convince. So the ego convinces the human mind not to go with the changes and start the resistance. So the second type of neural lines we can make that goes against the resistance, that works, kind of fights the resistance, would be making neuroline that would go like this. So I'm going up. I see my hand is going up, and I'm changing the direction this way consciously, and I'm going to my right. Now I'm going to the right, and I see my hand is going down. I'm going to the left. Going to the left, my hand wants to go up, I'm going down. Wants to go down, I'm going up. Constantly kind of changing the direction of where the hand is taking me, right? We never stop the neural line in the middle, so I have to take it to that one end of the paper to another, because the neural line is just a part of the huge. Basically, what we say in neurographic is that this picture, this piece of paper, is a part of the bigger picture that we call human life. It's like a puzzle, the puzzle piece is just a piece of that puzzle picture. Once you put it in, you see how the big picture comes in. So I'm going to continue again. The neural line goes up, and I'm going to go to the left. I'm going to the left. Now I need to go to the right. Basically, what you're doing is you're training your mind not to follow the pattern. Again, the word pattern comes in. Remember, I told you in Neurographica, we don't make patterns. We stay away from patterns. Why? Because pattern is the way our mind is used to going in this life. It's a path that already has the mind, is already used to it. And yes, in some way, it could be good. It could be good to get up and go to work every day, 9 to 5. It's, what do you call it? It's a schedule, and it's something that our mind feels good about, when we know what's expected from us, and we try to go according to that expectation. So in some ways, it could be good. But let's say, and we are talking about Neurographica being a tool, a coaching tool, and there's a difference with Neurographica. You don't have to have a coach to use this tool. That's the whole point of the basics course, that we are teaching you how to be your own coach, how to help yourself to get where you need to go. When a person comes to a coach, or when a person wants to do something different, the person sets a goal. The person says, I want to, let's say what the goal is. I want to get a new job, let's say, right? A typical get a new job, like a very, common goal for people to reach, right? So when a person wants to get a new job, that means the person wants to change something within their life that will lead them to a different path. And that's where it all comes out. Neurographica, the neural lines specifically, are very interesting and very mystical in that way, because, like I mentioned before, they resemble the neural pathway lines, but also they resemble the way, allegorically speaking, they resemble the human way of living, of walking, right? It's like a path. Look at this. I can take my hand and just walk on it, right? And that's the interesting part, that you take the line, you draw a line. And that's why when we do the line, we can, of course, take a paper and say, okay, I'm here, point A, and I want to be here, point B, right? This is me. Usually I go over here, point C. Every day I go to work. I want to go this way, point B. Voila, changes happen, right? Does it work like this in real life? Very, very rarely. Why? Because the person's line of going of A to C is quite thick. It's something that a person's mind, a human mind, is used to doing. So every day a person gets up in the morning, gets dressed, and goes to work. The body is used to this. The mind is used to this. And you know what? The emotions may not be there, because remember, the person wants to change and wants to go here. But for emotions alone to do something about a person's life is not enough. It takes much more than just, a habit. It takes much more than the mind is saying, you know what? Yes, I do want to get a new job. The body has to get used to it. The body is a very important instrument within the way the human mind, the person chooses to live one's life, okay? The mind decides to do something, and the emotions may either agree or not agree with that decision, but the body is the one that has to get up, get dressed, and go to this new route of going to the new job. So the way this works is that when we want something, usually our mind, our ego starts saying, are you sure you want this? Are you sure you're up for it? And the ego starts giving you different options and saying, maybe you should stay at the old job and ask for a raise. Or maybe you should stay at the old job. Why do you need a new job? I mean, this is so cool and it's so easy, you know what to do already, you know the people. Yeah, you don't like your boss or you don't like some colleague, but who cares? There's not a lot of changes, stay the way you are. And that's how the ego works. The ego's kind of statement in life is just stay the way you are. It's safe and you know it works. So why change, right? Um, and that's why when we draw, that's why we're saying the straight line, it's never straight, right? It's not the way the life works, right? Life always goes around, goes up and down. That's why when we want something, right, to get from A to B, actually, let me go back here. You can stay straight, but the way Neurographic works, and that's the interesting part of the neuroline, it goes up and down. It emulates life, it emulates the way life is, may even turn here at one point, but then it will go up. If you work on it, if you insist on reaching your goal, right? You can sometime maybe like straight on the side, maybe look for a different job, go for an interview to point D, didn't work out, point E, didn't work out. One way, then you're thinking, oh no, maybe I should stay with this job that I already have. But if you insist, if you persist, if you develop grit, it's called, and perseverance, you will reach your goal. What Neurographica does is actually help you get to this point much faster. If you learn to allow, like I said, that this neuroline is the emulation of your life. So why not kind of project your own line pattern, like your lifeline, in going from A to B with least possible, strays, going sideways, but actually straight going to your goal. And that's what it's all about. And that's where they talk about resistance or not resistance at first when you learn Neurographica. And that's what happens in the basics course, right? In the beginning, we just learn how to use the neuroline to just help this achieve your goal. Now, in the basics course, when we do with neurolines, we actually practice for a number of times. I mean, this is not easy. I have been drawing Neurographica for the last 4 years. And I'm going to tell you that, well, I draw almost every day. And this is the result of practice. It takes practice to learn how to draw the neuroline. But once you learn how to do that, all you have to do, any idea you have, you can even figure out whether the idea you have is what you want in life. Let's say you're not sure. What you start doing is take a paper and you start making the neurolines. Make one line, go this way, right? Now this line, I'm not controlling. My hand is taking me where it wants to go. I'm going to let it, okay? This line is going, oh, there you go. It went this way. Now, if I start drawing the neuroline, the second type, the one where I resist the resistance, so to say, then look, once it wants to go down, I'm going up. Once you're going to the right, I'm going to go down. Going down, I'm going to make it left, right? Going down, I'm going to make it right. Look at this line. It's full of life, right? This is what life is all about, right? Sometimes you turn left, sometimes you turn right. Sometimes you go up when you want to go down. But the interesting part is the lines are taking me. She's taking me somewhere, okay? Again, this is a psychological tool. This is a coaching tool, I have people who come up to me and say, if I draw, can you look at my picture and tell me what's going to happen to me? And I tell them, no, not really. This is not, I am not, what do you call them? I'm not a gypsy, the ones that sit with a tarot card. I'm not going to sit down and tell you what's going to happen to you. But you know what? You could sit down and tell yourself what might happen to you. You are in charge of your own life. And you can project what will happen to you. What Neurographica does is actually help you. get to that goal, going from A to B faster. There's no line here. And if you think about it neurally, that's why Neurographica is called neuro. It has a lot to do, it's completely tied in neuroplasticity, that area of neuropsychology that's very popular nowadays. I know people who tell me, anytime I see anything neuro, I just go straight because I want to know anything about the brain works, the way the brain works. And I think I agree with them because I think it is so fascinating because for the last 20 years, I think the way that scientists have discovered the way the brain works is absolutely fascinating. I completely agree with them because, if before, and I want to tell you, I have an educational background. I've been working as a special ed teacher within mostly early childhood, but other ways as well within education. And I want to tell you that the way we were taught is that the way a human mind develops until the age of 3, that's the most way the human mind will develop, right? That's why we have early intervention. We have a lot of, kind of governmental projects that help children develop until the age of 3. Now, I'm not arguing with that, but what it used to be that the scientists would say after the age of 3, the next chance you have is until the age of 5, 6, 7, and then your brain kind of is developed. The way it's developed is what you can use, and that's it. You can't develop it further, right? So people who grow up, what they do is they kind of develop further whatever branches of the brain that already exists. They cannot develop new, you cannot change your brain. And they would talk about, CAT scans and everything. So it's interesting that for the last 20 years, I would say more particularly 10 years, the neuropsychologists have been finding that you can change your brain. The brain does have a neuroplasticity, the ability to change. Guess what? Even at the age of 50, at the age of 60, and I want to tell you personally firsthand, I have colleagues who take Neurographica, which completely has to do firsthand, directly has to do with changing the way a person thinks, changing the way a person expects things to work out in life, changing the thoughts pattern. And they were able to, I have a colleague who changed the way she sees. Her eyesight has improved. And that's like a hard thing, that's a physiological, disability. But she actually improved her eyesight, where she was able to see better. And I mean substantially better. She actually wrote her dissertation in Neurographic on that, which I thought personally was absolutely amazing. I was supervising her and helping her do it, and I found it to be so fascinating. And she's like 60 or like 65 years old, maybe. And I found it to be such a great example of the way Neurographica works, So what we're trying to say is that I want to get from A to B. So you know what? I'm going to draw a line. It's not going to be a straight line. It's a neurographic line, but my goal is to get to the line B. Now, this is completely for illustrative purposes. When we learn how to draw neurographic in the basics course, we work a little differently, but it's the same notion, okay? We're creating, what happened now, did you see there was a whiteness between A and B? What I did now was I created a pathway. Talking allegorically, I created a pathway upon which I can walk from point A, to point B, and this is the pathway. So what am I going to do now? I'm going to say, you know what? I want to make sure this pathway is great. So I'm going to create more neurolines. I'm going to create more pathways that will go into that direction, okay? Again, remember, this is the beginning of Neurographica. So you're just drawing the neurolines and you're allowing the neuroline to express what you feel. Remember, the emotions are very important. What you think, I want to get from A to B. And your body is very much involved. We know that because we're using our hand, right? We're using a marker. We're actually imprinting this in the physical level. We're actually doing this on a paper, It's not like, it's not, what do you call that? it's not imagination. It has a lot to do with visualization, but it's going beyond the visualization. It's not just dreaming of getting from point A to point B, you know, getting that new coveted job or getting that new project, or, you know, my goal, let's say, you know, we're going to start the new cohort of the specialist course in January. And that's very fascinating. We just finished one in November. And we're starting new. It's completely fascinating. People are completely in love with the program. And I'm thinking, you know, how do I get people, and remember, I'm talking, I'm thinking about it, and I'm drawing. How do I get people to know more about the specialist course? How do I tell more people? Because I think people would love it. You see what I'm doing? I'm projecting. It's also part visualization, but it's going beyond. It's going beyond just visualizing. It's going to the physical imprintation. I'm actually kind of like imprinting my thoughts and my dreams and my ideas within the realm of the paper and the marker. And if you think about it, the way neurographic line is, it also has to do a lot with calligraphy and the development. Well, calligraphy, as we all know about it, you know, handwriting. We all know that's very important for the development of the mind, right? Why? Because of the fine motor skills. What do fine motor skills have to do with anything? Why is it one of the most important ways the children develop? Why do all the early educators always talk about the development of fine motor skills and sensory integration? Because over here on the very tip of your finger are the most amount of nerve endings, okay? And whatever you touch, whatever you feel, that's why for children, you know how they make those, you know, teddy bears or like, you know, like teddy animals, where they have different textures. The more amount of different textures a child will touch, the baby, we're talking about specifically like until even the age of 1, the more developed, the more kind of, what do you call it? You know, the more branch out the brain will become, the more development. That's why kids, you know, talking about sensory, not just fingers, you know, Neurographica is amazing in that way because it involves all the 5 senses of development. And we do know when we talk about the 5 senses, that's what the body is all about, right? How does a human being implement the way the body works within the world, right? Thinking is not enough, but actual expression in the world, right? And that expression comes out in the form of the 5 senses. What does it entail? Well, first and foremost, let's start with what we started before, touching, right? We are actually touching the marker, we're touching the paper, we can feel. I have, I can't find because I recently moved and it's still in my boxes. I have the professional artist paper. I have an artistic drawing pad. And I want to tell you that the paper there, this is a regular printing paper, but over there, the paper is a little more textured. So if you want to, you can actually kind of achieve things on a different level. You take the textured paper, not too textured because you want to be comfortable drawing, but a little textured of a paper. You know how they sell those papers for like resumes, you know, they have like, it's a thicker and it has like, you know, like watermarks on it. And it's very interesting because different texture. And start making the neurolines on that textured paper. I want to tell you it's going to be a completely different experience than just drawing on top of the regular printing paper. And that's something to keep in mind because touch is one of the, you know, most integral ways a human being interacts with this world, right? The next one is what? Sight, right? We talked about the eyesight before. And when you draw the neurographic picture, guess what happens? You're actively involved because you're looking at all the images that the picture is creating on the white paper. You know, you take a paper that was completely white before, and you're creating something with your own hands. It's going beyond just being creative. First of all, this is a completely creative method, you know, one of those things that one of yet another things about Neurographica that I'm so glad to share with all of you. And look at all of these images and your mind will start making kind of sense, kind of, you know, those Roseblatt tests, you know, where they give you ink spots and you kind of figure out what it is. This is going beyond. This is creating your own ink spot. This is creating your own life, creating your own pathway. Look at this. Look what happens. As soon as I started talking from going A to B, this pathway is developing much more, right? Do you notice? And that's conscious, right? I'm consciously making that choice, just for you guys, for those of you who can't understand the five senses. So we thought of development, so touching, then we said eyesight, right? You are so eyesight, you see what you're creating and you're getting what? Emotionally involved. That's amazing, right? Because eyesight is an important way, an important tool, the way the human body reacts to what's happening around, to the environment, right? And taking it inside, internalizing it, and kind of making sense of it on a mind level. What's next? The next is hearing. So it's interesting when we draw Neurographica, it's very important to listen to something that either A, has to do with your topic, or B, something pleasant. I usually would turn on, if I feel like being very active, having an active mind, I would turn on one of the interesting lectures I want to learn, something in psychology, something that I'm studying now, right? Let's say now we're getting ready to do the basics course, the specialist, we're doing other different types of courses in Neurographica. Plus, I'm developing something on my own. I'm gathering a new group for the Kiss of Game, a great financial stability, increasing one's level of financial stability. That's another like cheat game. That's another word for transformational game. That I'm gathering people, and I have already one cohort going, and it's amazing. So I might want to listen to some lecture in that area, or if I want my mind to rest, what am I doing? I'm going to turn on some music. Recently, it was Gershwin, right? I felt like listening to Gershwin, that's the music. I love Gershwin, the jazzy music, the going, sometimes it's fast and sometimes it's slow, just like the neural line that I'm drawing, right? And that's another thing. Hearing is an important asset, so use it to your advantage, Listen, you can also just turn off the music and listen to the sound of markers on your paper. Listen how your creation is actually getting created. And that's an interesting part as well. Trying to see the time. Right. So that's I'm just giving you a glimpse into what a neural line is, what it can bring you, the variety of experiences it brings you, right? Talking, going back to the five senses, touching, we said eyesight, hearing. What's next? Smelling it, right? Now, talking about smelling, I always remember my kids who always ask me to buy the markers that have a smell to it. If you guys know what I'm talking about, those of you who have kids, they sell markers that have like a scent to it, and it's very interesting. Remember, first time I saw it, what a genius idea to get kids involved on yet another sensory way while the kids are drawing, And of course, tasting is yet another. Now, that's one thing that I think we don't involve much when we draw Neurographic, unless you chew gum or you eat something. But that's interesting when I say this. Once you draw, the neural lines are the beginning of your entry into the neurographic world. Those of you who start, who are either undergoing the basics course or already took it, they know that once we draw the lines, the next thing we do is we add a shape, particularly the shape of the circle. And it's interesting to know that after a session of Neurographica, most people start talking about wanting to eat. Why? Because the body starts reacting to all the changes on a very primal level. The primal level, the level of survival, the level of making sure that this body is here right now, right here, grounding, is eating, you know. So talking about tasting, although it's not directly involved within the neurographic drawing per se, it is usually kind of pun intended saying aftertaste of neurographica, because people tend to want to eat something, that kind of would work with the way the body works, the primal way of living, The eating is a primal way, the human body lets a person know that it's alive. Okay, so this is the beginning. Okay, this picture is amazing. I see yet another circle. And again, that's something we'll learn in the basics course. I'm going to finish up my live session very soon. This is like an introductory. But I wanted to know from those of you who are either watching live or not even watching live, because I know a lot of those live videos, people are working now, gets to be watched later on. And I do invite you to do that. The previous live video I had was on the subject of the pyramid. We learned a pyramid, the sixth pyramid, the seven stages of the pyramid of consciousness that has directly to do with Neurographica. So I wanted to ask you, I want to do more of those live kind of, introductory sessions into what Neurographica is. And I wanted to ask everybody, what would you like the topic to be? Please feel free to write it in the comments. I have few options for you. One of the options, I'm sure those of you who are new to Neurographica has noticed what I'm doing. I'm going through each line, specifically the intersection in the line, and kind of do something called the rounding, where I connect the intersection, connect one line to another. That's called the rounding process. So that could be a topic for my next live session. It could also be, let me tell you, it could also be, oh wait, something, my computer is trying to tell me something. I'm here. Okay. So it could also be talking about the 7 steps of the algorithm. What we did now was very interesting. What we did now was steps of drawing the neural line, adding the shape. That's another step, right? So in general, there are 7 steps of the algorithm. And what I can do is, and you know what? It's directly related to the 7 steps of 7 stages of the new pyramid of consciousness. I made a video, a live video. The last one I made was about the pyramid of consciousness. If you would like, the next time we can talk about the pyramid of consciousness having to do with the 7 steps of the algorithm. That could also be a topic. Let me know what you would like, okay? Please do me a favor and write it down. You can PM me, of course, if you want, but just write it down as a comment is fine too. I can talk to you about integration is what I call it. In actual rounding is integration, right? Why when we have 2 lines, what is it? When we have 2 lines, right? I'm specifically drawing in a big scale. We are rounding it out. What's the reason for that? Why does it happen? And why is it specifically happening this way? Somebody once asked me, how come when you say rounding, why don't we just put a circle around it and round it? That's a rounding way. And I explained to them what's going on with this. We actually discuss this a lot in the basics course. Again, the answer to all of these questions are in the basics course, which we are starting on December 1st. Please join me and my colleague Margarita Miller as we invite you into the world of Neurographica and obtaining your basics course. You will get all the basics ideas, the intro about what Neurographica is. Now, when I talk about the neurolines here, it's very basic. Honestly, I covered the tip of the iceberg. So definitely much more information, much more integration, more practice. I explained to you how to work with neurographic line to make it so fluidy, so flowy. And that's an important part. So if you want me to talk about the specialist course, what is it about? Why is it called the specialist course? Who is it geared for? Because it is geared toward a specific, toward a specific area within Neurographica, let me know. I can talk more about, of course, I can bring you some more glimpse from the basics course. That's also something I might do. you know, to get you more excited about getting into the basics course. I can also tell you about other algorithms of Neurographica. Okay. And the algorithm would be Neuromandala, which, by the way, I'm going to let you know now. There will be a free session on Neuromandala on November 30th. You can mark it in your calendars here on Facebook. I will do a free session in lieu of the Neuromandala course we're starting in December. The second week in December, the first week in December, we're having the basics course. Okay, the first week in December. And the second week in December, we will have the Neuromandala course. It's an amazing course, okay? It's all about the magic of what a circle is, how the circle works, why the circle, what it represents allegorically, psychologically, you know, so many wonderful, wonderful ideas. And of course, practices. We're going to practice so many ways the mandala works. And on November 30th, join me for a free session in Neuromandala. I will actually show you how you can use the circle, the mandala, to plan your year, to plan your next year, you know, as we're getting ready for the next year, 2021, you know, and we're all hoping for it to be a much better year than this 2020 year, right? A lot of memes going around it, a lot of jokes. But jokes aside, you know, we can joke all we want. If you have a goal you want to reach in 2021, join me. I will show you how to do that using a Neurographic method, using a mandala method, and that's altogether called a Neuromandala, okay? We also have a Neuro Shapes class going on. I believe it's on November 22nd. My partner, Margarita Miller, will be teaching it, and it's an amazing class that will, it's like an introductory class to neurocomposition or neuro shapes would be the right way to explain it. We are talking about the major shapes in Neurographica, which are circle, square, and a triangle. Why those shapes? What do they mean? What do they represent? A circle, a square, or a triangle? What is the meaning of those shapes, and why do we specifically use those shapes? And most interestingly, most importantly, how do you use one or a specific shape or a combination of shapes to reach your goal? How do we project using the shapes? That's an interesting. So let me know what you're interested in. Let me know what you would like to learn about Neurographica in a free session, going beyond, so to say, the certified courses. And both me and Margarita will be so happy, so glad to, bring that to you, to talk more about. I will make a separate video, or I think I'm going to make a live session where I will do the share screen of the beautiful explanation I have about Neurographica, that explains Neurographica from so many different ways, scientifically, artistically. It explains from a psychological point of view, what does it entail? And please join me, and I'm so glad to see you. I'm saying goodbye to you now. I'm gonna actually change my camera to say hello and goodbye. So nice to see you. So glad to see all of you. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of you on other live sessions, okay? Bye. If you have any questions, please feel free to write under this video, or you can always PM me if it's something personal, do me a favor, contact me. I'll be glad to, have a conversation with you, explain anything you want about Neurographica. We're about the coaching part of Neurographica, about the drawing part of Neurographica. Oh, Noran. Okay, shapes and their meaning. Excellent. Yes, we can do that. Okay, we have a class coming up about that on November 22nd. I will post another post about all of the classes we're offering, but it's in my profile. And please, everybody, welcome to join a group called World of Neurographica, where we also talk about all of that. But yes, Noran, I got it. Neuro shapes, excellent. Okay, bye, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, or maybe even night, because I know in Europe it's nighttime. Bye-bye.